Hey, this is Judy again, and I'm here with Dana again.
Hello.
We're talking about, kind of a continuation of what we were talking about last week, which was, in a sense, I guess you could call it family dynamics, right?
Yep,
How
between the generations, absolutely.
Mhm. Between the generations and what is handed down from other generations, good and bad,
Mhm.
not just recipes, but uh, concepts
There you go. All
concepts
sorts of
of
different.
parenting and being a grandparent and relationships with adult kids, grandkids. So,
Yeah, yeah. In our previous conversation, we were talking about how you can't avoid it, right? How your parents were raised is going to affect the way that they raise you and how you go along forward with your own children. And I used to always think, I thought about this today, the generation gap was between the parents' and generation and the kids' generation. And it's not really because of those intermingling of all the generations. The generation gap is from generations past. And I saw this thing on Facebook. I'll just read it. I know it's boring, but I thought that it was um, it made sense to me when I was reading it, and I just thought it was kind of interesting. Of course, now I'm not going to. It just mentioned how so baby boomers. It has kind of the real reason every generation thinks differently.
mm,
So boomers, which is this says it ends at 60, so I guess in this world I'm not a boomer, but work hard, stay loyal, and the system will reward you. They built the system and are now watching it collapse, which is a little dramatic. Gen X, trust no one, figure it out yourself. The forgotten generation, yet the quiet backbone of progress. I think this was probably written by a Gen Xer, would be
sounds
my
like
guess.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Millennials find purpose, escape the 9 to 5, burnt out from chasing meaning while playing and paying endless rent. Very dramatic.
Ooh,
Gen Z, question everything, protect your mental health. And that's the kind of, so that says that's 97 to 2012. That's a really big gap. But that's kind of close to where my kids are. And the protect your mental health, I thought that was very interesting that that was in this thing. Granted, who knows who made this, but that's a priority for that generation, according to this little, whatever that rhetoric is. And I thought, yeah, that's a huge difference between production, 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 and then all of a sudden, providing for others, then all of a sudden the focus is inward. That's a huge shift,
mhm.
absolutely huge shift.
Yeah,
And we say in this family all the time, it's the expectations. Expectations will ruin everything for you. So if the expectation is that we're going to value that the same as they do, supposedly, you're going to set yourself up for failure. There's no way that that's ever going to be enough for anybody.
yeah. And when you say value, what exactly you're talking about? Like, what are you valuing?
Yeah.
That's like maybe could or couldn't didn't have to be a rhetorical question. It's like, what are you looking back at? What is important to you?
Yeah. Well, I've talked to you several times about my son who's 27 said that his choice in life, his one of his things is he just never attached to ambition, never wanted to push beyond anything like that. And like I've said before, my ambition was in overload because of the way I was raised. And the other day we were talking, he's in financial, he's an accountant. And so of course my thing to say, typical, he would say dysfunctional me was, "Hey, you're going to work part-time during tax season? Is that something you're looking for?" Me, ambition, ambition, spewing all over this poor man that has purposely chosen not to be ambitious. And then immediately right after I texted that, I said, "I'm sorry. I'm trying to get better and not do that stuff." Because his response to me was, "Yeah, if it can be as part-time as possible. If I
Mhm.
can find a really part-time job," which of course wasn't my point. My point in my brain was make some extra money, man. Bang it out. You can do anything for 4 months. Let's go. Let's see what you can
Yep.
do. And he's just like, well, if it can be as part-time as possible. And then I thought, wow, I just fell right back in that trap, didn't I? I
Yeah.
set my trap, I walked into it, and I got caught in it. And
Yep.
I thought, oh well, and it brings up so much because it's like, I know what I just did. I don't want to feel bad about it, but I feel like I need to apologize because he and I have had a discussion about those differences. But I don't want to have to apologize because he should understand who I am and say, "Oh, mom, you did it."
Yeah.
It sent me in like a week's worth of, and then I start doubting, should I text him back? What if I text him back? What is he going to think about this? And it's like, what are we doing here? This has gotten so convoluted.
Hmm.
It's just crazy that we can't just relate to each other and just make it just be okay.
But you recognize it right away,
Yeah,
and some people don't at all.
yeah,
Or some people, your adult children may think you don't think of, you don't recognize that right away. And some of us don't, and some of us do.
yeah.
Um, it brings up the fact that it's so odd that like we have three kids and I have I guess you could say, completely different relationship with each one of them in different ways. Do I still do what you did? Yeah, absolutely. Because your intention was like, hey, make some extra money because our generation is, do you have enough to live on after retirement?
Yeah,
Because we don't have family money. We don't come from old money. We have to do this ourselves. And if we haven't done it already at our age,
yeah,
we're at a loss.
yeah,
And so the last 10, 20 years of our lives was I've got to make my nest egg. And it sounds like that's where you were coming from. Yeah, make that extra money. If you can do this for 4 months, you can do, you can do anything for 4 months, blah, blah, blah,
yeah,
make that extra money. So you're happier, you're healthier, you don't have to worry. You have less worries.
yeah.
Um, and theirs is like, wait, I already have a job.
Yeah.
uh, what do you want me to do now, mom? Am I doing this for you? Am I doing it for me? Am I doing it for my family? What am I doing this for?
Yeah.
You
And I'll
know?
tell you, part of it for me too is the fact that I can't do it. I still see things like, I could work on the weekends. I could do something else. Of course, I usually get my 40 hours in by Thursday. Like tomorrow, I have 3 hours I can work for the rest. It's a Thursday going into a Friday. So I've already worked almost all my hours this week in
Yep.
4 days. And that's just who I am. And it's like, wow, I have extra time. I could go do this. And it's like, you're 62 years old. What are you going to do? So part of it is, and I had a late meeting on Tuesday. I have Tuesdays is very busy meetings this every couple of months, and it kicks my butt. I mean,
Mhm.
it's crazy. So maybe part of it was too, I remember when I had limitless everything, energy, why not? The idea of why there's no reason I shouldn't do that. Whereas now it's kind of like, oh my God, but my feet and, I'm going to have to catch up and it's going to take me a week to catch up.
Yep.
Part of it was probably jealousy of that, where, my possibilities are no longer endless, you
No,
know?
no,
So,
they're not. They're not. And we don't want them to be. I don't want them to be. But
yeah.
my brain, I did the exact same thing yesterday because one of our friends was kind of sharing a story between my husband and I, saying that she had to let go someone in an arena where you and I both used to work.
Okay.
And my husband was like, hey, they got a job opening in blah blah blah. Why don't you do that? And I'm like, honey, it's nights. It's
Yeah.
6P to 6A. What are you talking about? I'm not gonna go back to that. Are you kidding me? When we moved up here, I very, very decidedly said, I'm not getting on the fire department again. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
do that. I'm not gonna do 3 a.m. lift assists anymore.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, and just for disclosure, that's how Judy and I met ultimately, was in the world of emergency medical services and fire service. So
yeah.
we weren't, we were pretty physical gals all through our
Mhm.
careers and still
Still
are. But
are.
yeah,
Still
still, yeah. But yeah, it's another hard pill to swallow.
yeah.
But it's just the people that go into their adulthood and the children's that think that when their parents age, you know, I mean, in a way, I guess I thought that too, that when I got older, I would have the answers and I wouldn't, that ambition, we'd kind of just slow down into this lovely little warm hug of an existence where no worries because you don't have deadlines at work and no worries because you're on Social Security or whatever and everything's being provided and it's all wonderful and your family gathers around you and it's like, no, we're still making mistakes. I made a big one with my son last week, and I haven't and then you do the old kind of, I'll text something really benign and see if he'll answer me to make sure I didn't really, really screw
Yep.
things up.
Throw
Because
some bait out there.
yeah, I have no idea. That's it. I'm chumming for comments, right? I have no idea if he's mad or not, and it's just such a hard place to let yourself sit
Yeah.
until the answer becomes obvious. It's very hard. And it's definitely, once again, the generational changes or the differences are it's just profound.
That
It's just
that
absolutely
you don't
profound.
expect.
Yeah.
You don't expect. I remember, I think I was newly married, and I remember, and our mine and Dana's family go back with, first responder world and things like that. And my dad, I grew up with my dad being not only a dairy farmer, but he was the fire chief. And I remember probably late 20s. I remember going home, having dinner with my folks, my husband and I did, newly married, no kids yet, and taking a look at my dad and seeing and thinking, how did you get so old? When did you get old? When did
Yeah.
you age? When did you start getting gray hair? And huge reality hit. It's
Yeah.
like, how have I been ignoring, selfishly in my own world, the fact that my parents are aging and
Mm.
I'm not paying any attention to it, which goes back to what we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
Just the changes and the stuff you don't expect, the stuff you do expect, and the conversations that either do or don't take place,
Yeah.
that all trickle down like a waterfall into your existing family, or don't trickle down when they're
Yeah.
supposed to, which makes it sometimes easier and sometimes harder.
Yeah. I mean, if everybody's living a good long life, you still have time to recover that because usually by the time your kids are older and you start really recognizing those, because, when your kids are little, you're focused right there. You're just trying to survive, man. It's a
Yeah,
jungle out there.
it is a
Like
jungle.
if your parents are getting into their 70s and 80s, thank goodness. Hopefully that's a good thing. Then you have the opportunity. How old were you when your mother passed?
Oh geez, I think I was 42 or 43.
Yeah, so I was 32 when mine did. So we don't have that image of like I would love to have known what my mother, I mean, I think I see her in the mirror, there's no doubt about it. But I think not having that maternal side of things either
Mm-hmm.
to have as a reference, because I don't have any sisters. I have an aunt that lives and we visit her as often as we can, but that's very different as well. I think not having that mother figure to see,
Yeah.
the aging. I think she would have struggled. I mean, I give her all the credit in the world because I remember in my 20s, I was living in Seattle, and that was whenever, I was you have the right to talk about things and get yourself to feel better. I'm sure I was very depressed. I didn't recognize it, but I knew there were things I needed help figuring out. And I called her one night and I said, Mom, I have to get mad at you. My counselor says I have to get mad at you.
Oh
And
wow.
you have to talk about these things because something must have happened that didn't go over well, or something that you're still working with right now or working against. And she said, hey, do whatever you got to do.
Huh.
And I thought that's amazing that she could say something like that and just be like, I'm okay with, I mean, the one thing that I say my mom offered me was humanity. She was always very human. She would admit her errors. She was very human and she was always very much in touch with that. And I thought that was a very, very powerful thing to be able to tell your kid, yeah, you get mad at me. I did the best I could. Whatever you say, I did the best I could. I thought that was huge. But
That's a good thought. That's
yeah.
that's a wise woman there.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty profound, but I don't ever remember getting mad about it. For me, it was just more awareness. I just needed to know, like we were talking last week, just have the conversation so you have the awareness. The
Mhm,
more I learned about how mom was raised, the more I learned about how my father was raised, it made sense to me. It
mhm.
absolutely made sense. And then it was up to me in a very non-dramatic way to just decide how I wanted to do it and if I wanted to repeat that or not. Obviously, I did because I found that out the other day from my son. But yeah, I just wanted to know. I just wanted to know what was happening.
Yeah.
But
It's
I don't
it's
know.
but my father turned, I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but my father turned 94 last week.
Oh my God.
And taking care of him, our family and my four siblings, taking turns taking care of him. I'm not there as much as they are because I'm the only one that lives further away.
Mhm.
But just taking care of him and making those realizations of just physical habits that led to like the way you think now. So if you think, my dad was born in 1932, and so his mom passed away when he was 8. So, the whole hygiene thing, let's just go with the hygiene thing. The whole hygiene thing of growing up in the 30s or
Hmm.
40s, because if he was born 32, she died in 1940.
Wow.
So all through his younger years and teenage years, his dad did not teach him a whole lot. That's what we're learning. And
Yeah.
we laugh at it now. I mean, he's fine now. He has hygiene, but if you quiz him about some things or notice certain little perks,
Yeah.
you'll notice, well, maybe he does do that or doesn't do that because he didn't do it as a kid. So he's
Yeah.
been doing this all his life. And I know when my mom was alive that she held him to a certain standard all the
Mhm.
time. But then when my mom passed away in 98, I think his other habits started coming back. Like,
Yeah.
well, I don't have to do this anymore. And I don't have to do that. And I can wear that shirt 3 times instead of twice. And, you know, just stuff like that. It's so,
Yeah.
but
But I wonder if in this day and age of all the mental health stuff, good or bad, whatever side of that argument you come down on, I think everybody's on the good side, maybe in varying degrees. If those questions are ever asked, what were your, what was your mom's childhood like? What happened here? What happened there?
Mhm.
I
And I
wonder.
wish I would have asked more of those questions when they
Yeah.
were both, when my mom was here and my dad was a little more lucid. Because
Yeah.
we've been asking those questions lately, and we'll get, "Nah, I don't remember." And then there are other stories that are clears about.
Yeah.
He'll tell a story about getting kicked out of high school because he was playing basketball in one of the classrooms and he got suspended or something like that. So, and it's the same facts every time.
Yeah.
He doesn't mess it up. He knows that story about my dad was a rebel when he was in high school, total rebel. In fact, I think he got actually kicked out of school and had to go to a different high school. But
Wow.
and then he turned into a teddy bear, later on
Yeah.
in life. But yeah, I wish we would have asked more questions.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get very funny answers and facts, and other times it's just I don't remember that. But what does your brain do when you're 94, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah,
You don't remember, you don't remember.
my husband's father is 10 years younger than his two older siblings, so his parents were a lot older than mine. They've been gone for a while. But then you add in the war dynamics in that whole generation of people that went into the military and served overseas and saw all those
Mm.
things as well.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully, I guess we can't say because of all the other wars that have happened since there and then, unfortunately, but yeah, I think we're always going to come back when we have this conversation back to the just ask the questions.
Mhm.
Jumping to assumptions and just thinking that you know and that not in assuming that good intent is never going to get you anywhere that you think it's gonna.
Mhm.
It's never going to get you in a happy place. You're never going to be able to resolve this. I can't imagine somebody just saying, "Oh, well, I guess that's just the way it is," until you find out the information. I don't think you can ever settle it in your heart fully.
Yeah,
You can never fully move past it. You can push it back down again with everything else that's down there, but
I
until
agree.
you
Totally agree.
until
And
you know the truth.
as you know, because we've talked about this before, I struggle with that. My husband and I struggle with that with one of our kids.
Mhm.
And it seems as though you were talking about a Facebook video the other day. I found one yet last night that was talking about how parents are not allowed to speak their piece. They're not allowed to do that because it's considered defensive or false narrative or justifying why they did something, and discounting what the adult child thinks happened, whether it was a long time ago when they were a kid or even a year ago. And then you get the attitude. Well, I guess I'm going to have to say attitude. You get the attitude of, mom or dad, you need to be accountable. And we're sitting here going, for what? You want to be more specific? It's
Yeah.
like getting fired without people telling you why.
Yeah.
And some people don't want to know, some people already know, but there are plenty of us out there who don't know. Like, what do you want me to be held accountable for? I will discuss this with you, but just contacting me and saying, we need to hash this out. It's like, what are we hashing? Please
Yeah.
just give me a clue, because if we can talk about it without demands, then it's going to turn out way better than you just saying, you need to apologize for this, this, and this. Okay. When did that happen? And why are you thinking that? Because maybe that wasn't my intent.
Yeah.
Maybe that was, or maybe in with whatever subject it was, that was my way of saying do or don't do that, or I'm trying to give you advice and you took it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And now we're at an impasse saying, wait, what? And we don't know. But this video that I was looking at was a whole bunch of, you know, them saying pretty much, we're just not allowed to speak. You have to sit there and take it. And that's the one-sided thing doesn't work.
That's
So,
heartbreaking.
yeah, truth isn't one-sided. And if you want to solve things like that,
Yeah.
yeah, you get it. You guys get it. You know what I'm
But
saying?
that's goes back to you and I have said several times when we're thinking of topics to speak about. Why is grace only allowed for certain players in this?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
is your pain? Why is your what you've gone through? Why do you get the grace of feeling this way, but the people that you are, I'm going to say you're saying are at fault and caused it, and the causation of all your pain, they get nothing.
Mhm.
We get nothing. And that to me, because you see them that go both ways. A lot of them are, have the conversation, or the one that you sent me the other day about change the language, use something other than trauma so everybody can kind of relate to it on a non-accusatory way. And they go both ways, but these ones where it's just like, nope, nope. And maybe, I guess in some instances, if the damage is so, I don't know, why would they do that? Why would they not allow there to be, because it doesn't serve it. A lie is a lie is a lie, or
Right.
know, or not
It,
allowing it to be gray at some point in time is
yeah.
is not going to serve anybody.
No, and like it doesn't serve a purpose, except it does reflect that they've had influence. Like someone telling them someone owes you,
Yeah.
which may or may not be true. But most of the time, when people say, "Oh, your parents owe you," or a counselor says, "You're not allowed to talk to your parents," or whatever, um, does that mean that you're not going to? Is that the end all of it?
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's just I don't know. It's
Heartbreaking.
confusing,
Yeah.
it's conflicting, and I liked what I saw yesterday about the word ambivalent. Because ambivalence, and I mistook that word, and she was explaining ambivalence as like kind of like two different opposites. Like in these situations, like in our situation, if you want to contact this child or this friend or whoever this is happening with, but you're still angry at the same time, but you still love them at the same time. That's
Mhm.
ambivalence. You still love them. Of course,
Yeah.
it's your child, it's your friend, it's your parent, it's your sibling, and you still hate what happened and you
Mm.
hate the way it happened, but you still love them. It's like opposites,
Yeah.
which is the explanation or the definition of ambivalence. And
Wow.
to deal with that is part of the definition of trauma.
Mm.
Trauma is anything that you're experiencing that doesn't go with however your brain's working at the time.
Yeah.
You and I are used to thinking about trauma as physical damage, it's
Mm.
body damage because we're in EMS. But trauma in a mental sense is more of, whoa, stop, I got to sit down, I can't handle that right now.
Yeah.
And that could be, and I know I overuse this word, multifaceted, just
Mm.
absolutely multifaceted, depending on where it's coming from, what it's about, who it's from, who it's to, the time of day. Is it, your dad's birthday that passed away? Why
Mm.
did you have to say this to me on the 12th or something
Yeah.
like that? Stuff like that. It's traumatic for you to think that way. So there's so many different things that go into, the definition of childhood or adult mental trauma, I
Yeah.
guess.
I know that article that you sent me about using a different phrase and using the concept, like you said, trauma is anything that overwhelms. It's kind of like a mass casualty
Overwhelmed.
incident. Mass casualty incident is anything that overwhelms your resources.
Right.
So the
Talked about
incident,
that 3 times today.
yeah, the example was in the story to kind of make this more real for people was like there had been an animal death in a family, or it was a stray, something came up and they tried to save it in this farm family. It didn't make it. The child was traumatized very much so because that was the first time they'd seen an animal die, let alone probably death at all as a very young child. The parent was a longtime farmer and I live with a farmer, you're a farming family. Things die, right? I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
animals are buried outside in our various pastures out here. And so for the parent, it was like, yep, it died. Circle of life, it'll be all right. But of course, the child was traumatized and he didn't recognize that there was something else going on with the child. And that became a life-changing memory for this child because
Yeah.
the trauma wasn't recognized. But that's such a perfect example of the multi-generational, the differences between the generations.
Mhm.
And you just got to take the time to observe and just kind of pick up on the clues that are around you. That's
Yep.
such a funny, I remember my poor kids, man. We had dead animals and you have to go out and the animal's suffering, so you got to take care of that. Can't have that going on anymore. And it's like, oh, two boys in my family. Holy cow, that was a interesting. And then my granddaughter now too. It's like, oh, well, my son takes her out hunting all the time. So I've got all sorts of pictures of her when she could barely stand next to a dead deer. It's like, I don't
She's
think we're
going to
going
be
to
the
have,
opposite of that traumatized child. She's
but it
going to
was
go
from
out
the
there with her
get-go.
shotgun.
Oh my gosh. And
Hey,
then she's
Grandma,
eating
let's
it.
go shoot something.
And then she's eating it that night. A whole
Oh my
different
God.
circle of life going on here. But I thought that was a great example of if you use that idea that trauma is overwhelming whatever capabilities to cope that you have currently in place, that makes a lot more sense.
Mhm.
But
So
also
individual.
when we're all trying to survive ourselves, how in tune are we of the cues? And how in tune do we have to be to all the cues of other people around us? I
Yeah.
would say that's a child, so probably, yeah, you should pay a little bit more attention. But I can also see how that got totally missed. But yeah, I thought that was very, very interesting articles coming out. So hopefully, if we're not just going to stick with this trauma stuff and we're starting to talk about it more, it'll be something that doesn't completely shut down all the relationships between the generations. We can only hope.
We can only hope, but we can also solve at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's crazy. Um, it brings up what we talked about a couple weeks ago was that I don't know, I guess the easiest way to put it is the unconscious parenting. Like that example that you just set was, oh yeah, the parents like, yeah, it's dead. Okay, move
Yep.
on. We're gonna bury it. Find a shoebox, blah blah blah. And the child's devastated.
Yeah.
So and not recognize that. So that's like unconscious parenting. Yeah, I'm parenting, but oh wait, what? Why are you
Yeah.
crying?
Yeah.
Why are you crying and not noticing? Which brings up the whole I hate to call it a trend, but I guess the fact that a lot of adult kids these days, no matter what, classification they fit, Gen Z, millennial, or whatever, are saying, I want to be seen.
Mm.
So what does that mean? I want to be seen. Yeah. And I think growing up with 3 kids and our middle child had genetic cardiac issues that we dealt with while she was growing up made us have to pay more attention to her.
Hmm.
And I think that's why sometimes that the other two are more like, hey, I want to be seen too. I've
Mm.
got a life too. And looking back, the parents here are thinking, wait, so I didn't? Or,
Yeah.
you did all these activities and I thought you were seen. And we look at it just completely, we look at it through
Yeah.
different glasses that they do. And it's kind of sad too that they look at it, not all of it, but a lot of it is they look at it through those trauma lenses and
Mm.
not through a happier lenses or a coping lens or my parents did the best they could with what they had lens, which is of course our way of being defensive is like you had a roof over your head and I tell people sometimes a lot, like people I haven't spoken to in years and years and years, they'll ask on social media or on messaging or text. How's your family? How are you doing? I know you guys have 3 kids. What are you doing? And I always say, well, none of them were in jail or on drugs, so we did well.
Yeah.
Um,
They're functioning humans.
right, because that's how we look at it now.
Yep.
Because that's a space in our life where we successfully raised our kids. They're still alive.
Yeah.
They have decent relationships, and we have grandchildren who are, growing and cared for. And so we put that in a box.
Yeah.
And when someone, and not that the box is closed, but
Hmm.
when we do put that in a box, we think, okay, I'm done with that for now. And then when someone opens that box thinking there's going to be black smoke coming out of there, but wait a minute, that's my box.
Yeah.
You can't open that box and make black smoke come out of that. That's my box. That's my happy box.
Hmm.
That's not Pandora's box.
Yeah.
That's Judy's box. And what the way I look at that is completely different than the way you look at that. And you're, you know, that's why people think that we get defensive, thinking you're only part of that box.
Yeah.
You're only 1 out of 5 people out of that box. There's other people in that box and they think differently than you do.
Yeah.
So if you open that box and see what grows out of it, there's, a daisy, there's a rose, and there's a thorn. Wait, which one are you? I'm a terribly visual person when it comes to,
Yeah.
seeing that stuff in my mind. So that's the way you'll hear me talk, is like, so yeah, I have to equate it with physical stuff when I think of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way we think of that, because right now you and I both, our families are in different periods,
Yeah.
especially you and your husband, me and my husband, we're in different periods of our life. And looking back, it's like, okay, got 3 kids, that's done. Now
Yep.
what?
Yep.
And then circling back to what you were saying about taking on new projects, or maybe a little more hours, or I could do that now. And then coupling that with, I can't do that with arthritis. I can't even sit on the floor and get back up by myself or something like that. I mean, not that you and I can't, but people, you have to take into account all the changes in your body, all the changes in your memory, all the changes in your box,
Everything.
they happen over time. So
Yeah.
that was my little rant. But
No, it all fits because that's what this is all about, is talking about what, not the rhetoric, but what this actually feels like and from our
yes,
perspective. So that was
exactly.
perfect.
What it feels like is
What
the
it feels
focus.
like, how
Yep.
how it's internalized by us.
Yeah.
So
And by everybody and their feelings toward us, our feelings toward them, whoever happens to be.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
perfect. Well, thanks, Judy.
Well, thanks, Dana. It was great talking to you.
You
And
too.
we're going to be back in a week and we're going to do this again. So if you guys want to follow us, please, click follow. And if you have any suggestions, put them in the comments and we will definitely address those. I think on our list of, let's see, we have a plan for next time.
I don't know. We'll have to see what comes our way. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out. We're just figuring it out as we go, as you guys can probably tell. So we
Yes.
appreciate you taking the time.
Yep. Definitely. Okay. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.